You talk about how you achieve in an organization a certain coherence. You seem to hint that hierarchies are, at the end of the day, are good if they act, as you said, as orchestra director, not as bureaucracies enforcing blind commands to the hierarchy. So I get that you can achieve this coherence with this kind of network-driven properties, connectivity, as you said before, and this kind of stuff. So, for example, contracts, as we said before, this kind of contract templates can act as a network-based mechanism that can ensure coherence. For example, I don't know, in an organization, you can have somebody doing investments from the board and through contracts and creating policies that let these cells coordinate to achieve a certain purpose, by the way, that is the organizational purpose. And then you said also that a very interesting point, I don't remember the exact words, but essentially there is always an embedding context, right? So as we move outside of teams and divisions and organization and then society, to some extent, don't we end up at some point in a context where we may have to question the very idea of having a certain purpose? So, for example, if we think about the biosphere, right? Many of the problems that I mean, at least that's an assumption, but for sure, many of the problems that we have today at the global scale are driven by this kind of impulse that we have at the species level to progress, to create more technologies, and so on. So when I talk about being outside in, this has been often a discussion in our conversations, kind of helping us to connect with the idea of having organizations that are much more, I don't want to say sustainable because I don't like the word, but in tune, let's say, with the environment. And to some extent, this kind of attuning to the environment has been connected with the idea of becoming purposeless, maybe much more driven just by this impulse of surviving or to some extent continuing to generate some kind of valuable interactions, but much less about somebody deciding, even aboard using network-based mechanisms to ensure coherence, but question the very idea that there should be someone setting a certain purpose for the organization. But then when you move at the societal level, then the question that we always deal with is, but the system needs to work. So there should be some kind of, I would say, distribution of roles and some kind of ideal state of society that we want to reach, right? And this makes me connect also with this very idea of what does it mean to be a good society and all these culture wars that we are living between, the more progressive and woke, if you allow me to use this word, ways to see societies versus a much more, I would say, adversarial idea of society where you have multiple poles that just want to protect their interests, let's say. So how do you connect this conversation we had so far with the very idea of purpose, vision of society, good versus bad, this kind of moral, let's say, vision of what should be done in society through organizations?
I think values are parameters that appear as emergent properties of societies. I don't think you have morals by yourself. That said, the question of how an individual relates to their society, how the society relates to their environment, the biosphere, how they relate with one another. I don't claim to have the answers to that.